Hello, everyone. Welcome to week 4. And today we will dive into chapter 7 and 8 of the assigned reading. Just a heads up, if you do hear any fireworks in the background, that's because my apartment complex is celebrating 4th of July early, so just a warning. But let's just get into the discussion. So, this week we talked about chapters 7 and 8, and this took us into two major areas of modern business tech, which is telecommunications and information system securities. And these chapters are closely connected into practice, especially with the rise of connected services and distributed networks. One example of the Internet of Things, or IoT, and that's basically the reading that I also incorporated with our assigned reading, and the IoT, which is including everyday devices like sensors, wearables, and machines that collect and exchange data over networks. And these systems rely heavily on stable infrastructures and strong security. And to bring it all together, this specific article was called Cybersecurity for the IoT, How to Trust, How to Trust Can Unlock Value. And it really shows how business today are being forced to think differently about, connectivity and protection. And I also did research on IoT, and it was first brought to my attention about 2 years ago. And IoT is just an eye-opening of a different space in technology. If you've ever been inside of a warehouse, they have a lot of IoT going there. So the different sensors and widgets, things like that, to make sure that the product is getting where it needed to go. Another example of this could be, you locking your phone, or locking your security alarm system through your phone, or locking your door through your phone, or being able to, connect to the inside of your home somewhere else. So that's an IoT. So just basically the Internet of Things and how they all work together. And it's pretty neat. So to talk about chapter 7, telecommunications and wireless infrastructure, this is going to give us the technical foundation of that organization, how data moves through networks, the structures of LANs and WANs, and how technology like cloud platforms, Wi-Fi, and 5G make real-time data sharing possible. And I'm in the health IT space, and the cloud platforms for EHR, EMRs, or other clinical information systems is definitely key and pivotal to make sure that the information is being exchanged in real time. So that's when we can, talk about the health data standards inside of the EHR, making sure that that business operation and business workflow is in real time for the clinicians. As networks expand to include mobile platforms, edge devices, and IoT systems, the complexity of this grows. So that means companies are now relying on fast wireless communication to drive operations, supply chains, and customer engagement. And that's when the cloud comes into play, because once you have that cloud, it allows you to move that information much easier. But with this comes more complication, and this is when chapter 8 came into play, and that's the security, control, and risk of this reading. And chapter 8 really highlights what's at stake when these systems are not structured. So from malware and phishing to insider threats, ransomware, the chapters really outline the vulnerabilities and how these can impact the business continuity, compliance, and trust. And I know if you do a lot of IT training or cybersecurity training with your job, or if you go to another job, they're going to really drill in phishing, because this is one of the number one ways to make your technology infrastructure vulnerable if you do go through phishing. So it was important to figure out how we can weed out the things like phishing and malware to make sure that the infrastructure stays secure. And it also just emphasizes the importance of building layered defenses. So authentication, access control, encryptions, backup systems, and along with having clear policies and employee training first in place. As I mentioned, these trainings will be very, very crucial for every user that's going to use some piece of technology. And with the authentication, that was actually one of my first projects as EHR manager was to set up our MFA, multiple factor authentication, to make sure that the codes are going directly to the provider. Provider can put in that code and they have access to our system instead of just being able to log in without any of that. Or once you log in, you have to re-put in all your information. So it's definitely streamlining the work for us and making sure that it is secure. And the biggest thing with Chapter 8 is that security is no longer just an IT function, it's strategic. And that's exactly the point that the McKinsey article makes. And to connect the article with everything, once again, this article is called Cybersecurity for the IoT. It's just basically talking about how organizations are embedding trust directly into their connected ecosystems. No matter what type of ecosystem you have. For me, I have a healthcare ecosystem, so I have an EHR system, I have a pharmacy integration, I have other clinical information systems that we use, and that's a part of our standard health IT ecosystem. Now, we do have IT ecosystems as well, and that's talking about the Microsoft, the PowerPoints, things like that, just an overall technology ecosystem. And to bring it into the IoT, as the number of IoT devices grow, so do the risks. And what stood out to me is that cybersecurity is no longer just protection. It's more so about business enabler. So how can we make sure that once we do this, we can secure the connected environments, are better positioned to be innovative, scalable. So, how can you scale your current IT infrastructure and make it even more scalable in the future, and just earn that customer's trust. And no matter if your customer is waiting on their package from FedEx with the technology that you provide, or you're a client and they need their lab results back, and that could be a secure workflow as well. So this really ties and directly into what 7 and 8 were teaching us, and infrastructure and security must grow together. The biggest takeaway for me this week is that systems are becoming connected, and that means that they also are becoming more secure. So I'm very excited to see how we can continue to grow these technology spaces, and how organizations are going to keep up with that. So they might have to add more compliance officers to make sure that this is secure, or they might have to add more technology analysts to make sure that the gaps in the technology are secure. So yeah, this reading was definitely a great one. I definitely encourage to take a look at the IoT and just try to see how you use IoT in your everyday life. So yeah, if you have any questions or comments, I'm definitely eager to hear what you got to say. Thank you.